Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Bob, and I'm here with a very special guest today. Doug, you and I have been friends for a very long time.
That is
We were
unfortunate for
both a
you,
little
Bob.
younger. Yeah.
Sorry you've had to endure me for so long.
Well,
Well,
it's been tough, but somebody had to do it.
yeah,
Yeah, right. Well, it's been a great friendship, and Doug, it's we're going on maybe almost 30 years, aren't we?
I
It's
think
been a
so.
long, it's been a
Yeah.
long time. But for those of you that don't know, Doug has well, he pioneered a lot of uh, the record reviews, the music critique, a lot of what goes on in behind the scenes in Christian metal with his magazine called Heaven's Metal, and Doug a little bit later it was called HM Magazine, and you've kind of gotten out of the magazine business, except at least for the last couple of years, temporarily anyway.
hmm
And tell us a little bit what's going on with you these days.
Well, gosh, I guess to go back to the transition point, you could go all the way back to '95 when I changed the magazine from Heaven's Metal
Yes,
to AM. We can gloss over that. I took a lot of flack for adopting and accepting and embracing the new music revolution, grunge and alternative rock. And some of the alternative rock got really lo-fi, got really mellow. And I
yeah,
know that probably alienated a lot of metalheads. And I felt your pain, but I was, leading the charge. And I was moving in this direction. I
mm,
could only apologize so much because I was embracing this whole new revolution of music
right.
and embracing all styles, which I thought was a good thing. And
So, sir, for some you were a champion, and for some you were a sellout.
yeah, or go.
Yeah,
But I've always loved the electric guitar, which is the staple behind rock and roll, classic
yes,
rock, heavy metal, and punk and hard rock. And Heaven's Metal, kind of as a brand, has always kind of encapsulated that hard rock, heavy metal. And now I'm really kind of reining back the reins of Heaven's Metal and relaunching it in a sense. And it's kind of a slow relaunch, and I don't know where it will expand to. But doing this video blog, heavensmetalradio.com is another avenue, and then maybe Heaven's Metal magazine will find its way back, maybe even in print form. That would be cool.
it would be
Uh,
cool.
the big transition for me to get out of the magazine business was it's kind of a sad, long story, but my marriage of 20 years suddenly ended in a surprise, shocking news to me. And if you can, for a minute, allow me to repent. A lot of times when I tell this story, people want to come to my side and my aid and say, don't be so hard on yourself, Doug. It takes two to tango, Well, yeah, I know that my wife is probably more than 50% of the reason I got a divorce because I wanted to save our marriage. Um, but my part in what started something negative was I became a workaholic in HM Magazine. Somehow, even though I knew better, I had knowledge about this as a pitfall, a potential danger, but HM Magazine became an idol to me somehow.
Mm,
Say that in my heart, I did not acknowledge it because I knew better, but in my actions, I would come home, and if my family wasn't paying attention to me, like they were all glued to the TV, instead of being there with them, I would open up my notebook and get some more work done because it was hard for me to delegate. I was doing tons of work and doing way too much for one person or a small staff anyway. But anyway, my workaholic ways wounded my wife's heart over and over and
mm,
over again. And that set her on a journey where she made a bunch of bad decisions. That's all, she's got to answer for that.
sure,
But what I did is I got the ball rolling, I hurt her. And so HM Magazine was like a mistress, she felt like, in conversations that was,
sure.
disclosed to me. So when I was separated and my three girls moved out on my youngest daughter's birthday in June of 2012, very, very sad day, it put me into a deep, deep valley of suffering. And just a side note here, it has changed me. It's permanently reshaped my heart. God has shown himself to be Emmanuel. His name has proven itself to be true because he was with me. Even though I was suffering, I was also in a beautiful place because I was broken, and God is truly close to the brokenhearted. So he was with me. So during this whole valley and this journey and this suffering, uh, I was in a beautiful, peaceful place, even though it was the worst anguish ever. But one benefit of all that is any man around the world in any condition, on any street corner, alley, no matter what condition he or she is in, I am a brother to that person because I have suffered.
Yes.
You know, we don't need to compare suffering, whose is worse, but I have been to rock bottom suffering. And so that's permanently changed my heart, and it's made me more of a, it's put me more in touch with something that's really true of all of us, is that we're all in the brotherhood of mankind. So
We're
that's a
we're all
benefit
we're
through all
all
this.
we're all the wounded working with the wounded. We really are.
Right.
That's
Hmm.
right. And I almost feel like I trust people who have been broken a little more than those that haven't, because there's something very intrinsic that happens when you're broken, isn't there?
Yeah. The pretending kind of goes away.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of breaks a little bit. So
Absolutely.
going back to my story, because during that time of separation, I was charged with getting a new job, fixing up this fixer-up townhouse we bought here in Lago Vista, Texas, and starting to pay child support, which was kind of a weird thing because we weren't divorced. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I set about doing all of those things. In addition to those three things I was given charge to do by my ex-spouse, I knew in my heart that I needed to do something with HM Magazine. I knew that the mistress had to be dealt with.
Mm.
And so during that time, trying to do all those things and leading up to the announcement that she filed for divorce, um, I tried to sell HM Magazine. I talked to a few people and couldn't find a buyer. And I reached out to one of my old buddies who is one of my most trusted senior staff writers for HM Magazine. He did probably more cover stories and more big time album reviews than most of my other writers during the last 15 years. A guy named David Stagg. I said, hey, you know, you're an entrepreneur in Houston. Do you know any businessmen that might want to buy HM Magazine? And he was like, what? Let's talk, you know, and he quickly became interested. And so instead of selling it to him for a big lump sum and getting rich, I sold it to him for royalties and a percentage of profits, and it hasn't profited in 3 years, so I haven't gotten a dime for HM Magazine. But anyway, I got divorced on March 5th of 2013. I sold HM Magazine that month, and I started a new job with the Texas Department of Agriculture on March 15th. So that month was a huge month of transition for me. And even though that HM Magazine was my dream come true, it was my baby, it was my startup business, it was my ministry, and it was something I enjoyed like a hobby. And it was my vocation, and it provided for me and my family for many years, and the employees that I had staffed, it provided for them. So it had a large impact. And even though I was giving all of that up, it was easy to do because, one, I was doing it for the noble purpose of trying to save my marriage. Like a last-ditch effort prior to the divorce court date was to get rid of HM Magazine and let her know about it. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Broke my heart that step and all the other things I did didn't work. But that's why I got out of the magazine business. And I've really enjoyed the fact that I work for somebody else, which was a big transition because I was my own
Yes.
boss for almost 30 years. And I made all the final decisions on graphic design and writing and stuff. And I wore what I wanted to wear. And, you know, I worked irregular hours because I needed to
Yes.
get stuff done. But still, I was the boss. And now I have another boss that I work for. And that transition has been easy because God blessed me, and two, I was just prepared for it, and it wasn't a big deal. But now I work for somebody else. But when 3:30 comes, when my workday is over, I walk out of that door, and my job is behind me. I'm not taking it home and going, okay, who am I going to put on the cover of the next issue? Or what am I going to do about this problem? And how do we woo that advertiser back in? None of that is hanging around me anymore, and I love the freedom I have. Um, so I'm, committed not to become workaholic ever again. But yeah, it's been kind of fun to get away for a while, and I'm kind of never fully left. I still became like a senior staff writer for HM Magazine and a consultant for my buddy David, who was running the show now, and still go to the occasional concert or review the occasional DVD or whatnot. So still around and getting more involved now this year. So it's kind of fun.
Well, and once you're involved with music, especially music that you love, it's never that far from you, is it?
No, there's a lot of great relationships built and good experience.
Yes,
It's a creative outlet too. It's a
it
very healthy,
is.
I think.
And, Doug, I think you and I share this, that we've made some phenomenal friends, in rock and roll, heavy metal, during the years. That part has been really rich to me in my life, just to realize that I have that. But there's more, it's more than just music. It's a passion with people, it's a passion with a message. And which brings us to your podcast, called Heaven's Metal with Doug Van Pelt. And Doug, you're going to do a little bit of talking about music, your passion. Fill us in a little bit about what we can expect with the new podcast.
Well, with the new podcast, I hope to really share from my heart. I've got a bunch of things to kind of get off my chest and a bunch of things to share.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I can share some practical things like maybe a how-to on how to design an album cover, or
yeah,
maybe how to approach a media outlet on sending material to get reviewed, or how to work with the media. And maybe just share some of my opinions, and that's all they are is opinions, but from my experience of doing this for almost 30 years, on things that work and don't work. Maybe some tips on being a creative person, a musician or an artist, or working with musicians. So maybe a lot of funny stories along the way. One blog I'm going to start doing, which will eventually turn into a book project, is Classic Moments in Christian Rock History, which is
ah,
a section of the magazine I started, I think, back in 2005. Um, there's just a few moments that stand out, um, that were just remarkable for one reason or another, like their historical impact, or maybe their humor, or maybe just the passionate impact. So I might share some of those in the video blog too. Just tell the story on
great.
camera. It's kind of fun. Um,
Yes.
Maybe share some. I hesitate to call it teaching, but probably like teaching. Maybe some lessons or something that God's put on my heart, or something God's taught me, something I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks, maybe. Um, and maybe on occasion cover something like current events or some band that's happening at the moment, or maybe something happens that's a huge impact, and maybe it kind of begs for some commentary.
Yep.
So that's kind of the thumbnail sketch of what I hope to do.
Well, I'm excited for it. Very excited for it.
I think it'll keep me busy, and I think it'll be fun to do.
I think it's going to be really fun to do. Absolutely. And I know everybody's looking forward to it. We're stoked. The very first one, you're going to be talking about what you've been up to for a while. You've got some new books that you've written. You've done a few things, and I won't steal the thunder from your first episode, but that's where you're going to start, is kind of filling us in on where you've been.
Excellent. And I'll be ready to jump in right after that and add a bunch more.
That sounds great. Well, Doug, we appreciate you coming aboard. This is it's so great to share the video world with Doug, and I appreciate his heart, appreciate what he's done all these years, and most of all, I appreciate his friendship. Um, Folks, you can count on Doug's podcast being uploaded maybe weekly. Would you say, Doug?
I sure hope so.
And
A reasonable goal.
absolutely, that'll be great. All right. Well, Doug, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Any parting words?
Well, thanks for having me on board. It's a privilege to be alongside you. It's an honor to be one of your many blogs. And I have a passion for you, Bob. And
Thank
I know your friends will soon be my friends,
Yes,
because I share that same experience with you. That one of the best things I've experienced is just the relationships and friendships I've built along the way. And we have a wonderful community that's family,
we do.
and we're a unique tribe,
Hmm.
and we need to celebrate and fellowship together and encourage one another while it's still called today. So I hope to
Yeah,
do that. And my favorite psalm is Psalm 34. One of them is, "Come, let us worship the Lord together. Let us glorify His name, exalt His name together." And so I'm looking forward to doing that too.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good things to come.
Good
Yes.
deal.
Doug, I love you, my friend. We'll look forward to seeing the premiere of Heaven's Metal with Doug Van Pelt.
Yay.
God bless you, my friend.
You too.